Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're listening to the SANE Show, the show about nothing and everything. I'm your host, Cliff, and today I have another special guest joining us. She has directed spots for Cartoon Network, MTV, Vice, has also been featured in Tribeca Film Festival, South by Southwest, Comic Con, and most recently she has wrapped up on the Lincoln Project and also has a film on the Criterion Channel. I have director, filmmaker, and human Leah Shore joining us today. How you doing, Leah?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I am well. I'm super excited to have you on the show today and super excited for the conversation that we're going to have today as well. So thank you for, taking time out of your schedule to come on the same show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Always. Really quick, before I introduce the topics, I want to take a moment to shout out all of our listeners, all of our followers on social media, everybody across the world in all 60 plus countries. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Continue to like, share, subscribe, and spread the word about the SANE Show. Really means a lot. It helps us out a great deal. So you guys, again, really been doing a lot for the show. And if you're listening and you don't already follow us on social media, be sure to check us out on Instagram and Twitter at sane_show. Again, that's sane, SANE_show. And then you can find us on Facebook, The SANE Show. Again, on Facebook, that's The SANE Show. So today we're going to have a conversation about a good director. Then we're also going to have a conversation about being different. And then following that discussion, we're going to have an interview with you, Leah, so that the listeners can learn more about you, your background, all the fun things that go along with that as well. So let's go ahead and hop right into it with the first topic, a good director. So, you and your work have been highly regarded, and this is actually a discussion that Paul, who's the lead writer for Sane Show, and I have had a few months ago. I remember I asked him, like, what makes a good director? Especially, I love good films and good television shows, and as I've been doing this podcast, it's obviously something that I think more about as well, and also been paying a lot more attention to film and television productions with more of a critical eye. And really just wanting to have a discussion with you again, doing the work that you do as a director and filmmaker, just to kind of get your thoughts on what it is that makes a good director.
Did you want to tell me what your thoughts were? Did you told me you like read something, an article or
Yeah, sure. So in the article I read, and I'm just going to list the 6 points that I saw here. One, it was talking about understanding lighting and understanding design, script analysis, ability to work with actors,
hmm
focus on the microscopic details, and don't ignore sound, and then don't overstep the special effects boundaries. When I looked at this list and I thought, honestly, I'm thinking that with a director, because when I looked at that, right, one of the things I thought about is like, okay, it put the director in more of a light of a, I think of a director now as like the person pretty much who has to manage all of these aspects and be able to bring everything together, but not just bring everything together and watch over the production from point A to point B, but also being able to bring all of these things together and make them work in a way that they're cohesive. And so when I looked at that list, and I know it goes well beyond that, but I looked at that and I said, okay, that's part of it.
yeah.
So go
Yeah,
ahead.
I think those are really good like broad strokes for somebody like just trying to understand what a director does or like should be thinking about when directing. For me, I think about those things on set. I normally storyboard my films if it's like live action or animation because I like to do both. So that helps me visualize what I want in the film, how I want my actors to be shot, lighting, like you said, lighting, production, how I want everything to visually be seen and very exact in particular. I also think about that in post when storyboarding. And personally, I think sound is just as important as the visual. So that is something that's very important to me as a director and just filmmaker in general. So I'm always thinking about that while I'm directing or making a film. So things just kind of, I'm thinking about all these things at the same time. But, when I'm on set, I'm mostly focusing on my actors, lighting, and talking to my DP, my cinematographer,
Mhm.
and getting the right shot, the perfect shot. And while at the same time, trying not to micromanage everything, which is very hard to do. So it's kind of this interesting dance that you have with everybody to get the right shot and the right performance from your actors. And I hope that was articulated well. But
Yeah,
yeah.
when I think about a director, oftentimes, and I'm sure it's like this with a lot of people, like you see the behind the scenes for whether it be a movie or a television show or even an animated production, and you see the blooper reel, and all people will think about is like cut, 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 or like and having to repeat the scene, and because sometimes I look at it and I'm like, what are they looking for, right? Like,
Right.
or I thought that was executed properly, and so as I've gotten deeper into it, and those are some of kind of things that I'm thinking about, right? Especially like I have those movies that I really love because they're really well directed, and it's like, okay, I'm looking at it with a critical eye, like what did they do here? And I'm thinking it's just one thing, honestly. If you were to ask me a couple years ago what makes a good director, I don't know. I'm probably going to focus on the acting, right? But it's a multitude of things, especially having had all the people that I've had on the show, from writers to producers, and listen to everybody talk about things like set design, clothing, like you said, sound, and really taking an understanding that now and having this conversation with you today, seeing that directors are responsible again for, like, they have to look at all these different aspects, and I can understand with you like saying it's hard not to micromanage, because I even think about it with this show, like I'm thinking about the sound, and I'm thinking about the topics, and I'm thinking about the people that that I have on. Like, fortunately, I haven't had to re-record many episodes, but there have been one or two episodes where I've had to re-record because I was like, you know what, that could have been better,
Mhm.
or even I go back and, or even putting the show together, like I'll even scratch some questions like, nah, that question could be better, right? Or it could be work, so all those little things like you were talking about as far as going into a production that you're looking out for as a director.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like a learned thing too. So like each time you do a production, you get better, in my opinion. So like what you're doing each time is better. Like when you do another recording, you learn from that, the previous one. I guess if I like boiled it down, it's really all about timing to me. If
Hmm.
timing is wrong and pacing, then I think the shot will be wrong. And same and editing, it's timing.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And again, especially you're talking about a medium where, and I'm not to like downgrade myself as a podcaster, but just mainly dealing with audio versus with a filmmaker, you're dealing with not only audio but video, and again, like all these multitude of different elements that you bring together, and which I think that's what I think makes it like very unique as well. And I look at people like yourself who do that kind of work and like have a lot of respect for you, because
Thank
no matter what level you do it on, like that's a skill. Like you said, like the more you do it and you learn, and especially when you start to have your own style and like it's unique to you. I mean, I know I've been tooting your horn since we started talking, but I mean, that's you've done that for yourself, and being able to have your own style and people be able to look at you and like you pretty much be in your own lane, and like this is Leah Shore, right? And this is the kind of work that I do and that is unique to me. So I think like when you like come into your own and begin to find your voice and your style, and you do it well on top of that, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I personally am always experimenting, and like pushing things. So, there's always room to try something out. some try something else out, because what if this is better? Yeah, I suppose there is a style that's happening.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. All right, we're back. So we're going to have a conversation with you about being different. Like I told you ahead of the recording, you inspired this topic, and I actually struggled a little bit coming up with a second topic because I really wanted to talk about something that I felt was closely related to you. And while you're different than most, I think that it adds a level of uniqueness. And again, having checked out your work ahead of the show, it obviously reflects in there. And even reading your interview in Filmmaker magazine, I pulled this quote from there about how you say, I like to make an audience feel a little uneasy. And I just want to tell you, I love that attitude and I love that approach. And not only does that make you unique, but people like you serve a greater purpose, in my opinion, because you guys keep things interesting. That's one. Two, push boundaries, and then three, inspire others. And again, just want to have a discussion with you about being different because, especially, I know when I think about myself, I feel like, I guess, like very conventional or can be very conventional. And I know even just when I think about like my style in general, I like to step outside the box a little bit, but for the most part, like I can be a little conservative, but I do appreciate people, like yourself who aren't afraid to go against the grain, try something new, and like you said in the last segment, right? Experiment, because those are the things that we need. Those are the things that even because I'm even thinking about like innovation now and where a lot of new ideas are created and you don't know what might come out of what it is that you decide to do. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, just kind of get your thoughts on as far as being different.
Um, yeah, I guess it starts with, like the subject of something I guess I'm writing. I like to play around with story. And then after that, I'd like to play visually with said story and, like you said, experiment. I'm not making a Marvel movie, though I would make one, because that could be really fun. But, I've made commercials too. I can make a commercial piece. It's just I'm choosing not to in my personal work, in my independent work, because why should I? Why should you do that all the time? That's so boring. So, yeah, what makes me different? I don't know. That's a really hard question. Yeah.
Um,
I guess the absurd and experimental side of me really comes out in my films, while I still have a narrative intertwined with the piece, which is certainly unique in my art and films. And I like to make people feel uneasy, but it's relatable at the same time. And I know that's so vague, but people should watch my films, then you'll go, oh yeah, I know, that makes sense. Like, I made a film called I Love You So Much, and it's about a couple just saying the most absurd commentary to each other about, like, I love you so much, I want to F you so hard, and like do all these things, but it's like relatable because, I've said these things to my lovers before. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that is my rant
And
about uniqueness.
even as a creative myself,
Hmm.
one of the things that because like I come across a lot of people, obviously, podcasts is blowing up and people come to me with ideas for shows or even talking to me about the show that they might already have. And obviously I've learned this early on when I started because everything there's a lot of people doing their own thing. And one of the things I always tell people is like, okay, well, what is it that makes it unique to you, or what makes you unique? And like, there's a large portion of it that's going to be the same. And I like to say, I guess a lot of that's like the foundational stuff, and even maybe like topics or whatever. But like, there's that small percentage of it that makes it unique to you, and that's what is really going to make it stand out. Because I'll even say when I originally conceived the idea of this show, like honestly, it was more of like a morning talk show kind of thing. It was like, well, we already have a lot of those
Mm.
on these big mainstream radio stations, and then I had to go back to I had to make adjustments very early and immediately and quickly, and the show evolved. I kid you not, the show evolved in like 10 episodes. And I credit I credit, and I always say this too, about I credit Jerry Seinfeld as the inspiration because I'm a big fan of his. But at the same time, and him inspiring me, I'm like, okay, cool. Even though I'm a big fan, I cannot do it exactly like him. What is it that's going to make it unique to me, to Cliff, right, as the host of SANE Show? And so I think, because sometimes when we talk about being different, sometimes I think people look at it as like, oh, you have to go to the extreme, whatever that may be. Where it's like, no, being different makes you unique in general, or makes whatever it is you're doing unique to you in general. So it's important to be different, whatever it is. At least that's my opinion. I don't know. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's what those are like rules with writing. Make it like this movie, but make it different.
Yeah,
Flip that idea so it can stand out and be unique. Make this basic love story, but change it in a way where it's yours, where it's your
yeah,
story. So yeah, I agree. I agree.
yeah. Because even when I think about going through, and this isn't a knock against Netflix and Hulu and all the other streaming platforms, but like I don't like to watch a lot of stuff because a lot of it seems the same, and it's like I want to see something different. I want to, and I get it, it's they're going based off what the market wants to see, and obviously I don't care to watch what most people want to watch, but it's like I want to see something different. And there are like some like one of the films I watched recently, Cuties on Netflix, that garnered a lot
Nice.
of controversy. It was something that I typically wouldn't watch,
I haven't
but
watched it.
because say that again,
I have not watched it yet.
you gotta watch it. But
Okay.
because it garnered so much controversy, I was like, I have to watch it, and I watched it. It was again not something I would typically watch, but I'm like, this is a good movie. It could have been better. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but
Nice.
I'm like, I see what they were trying to do. And for
Okay.
that reason, I feel like everybody should watch it and give it a chance. I'm glad it got the controversy that it did. Yeah, because it was because of the marketing. But hey, they it has a good message. It's different, and and there were some parts in there that made me cringe. I'm like, oh, but hey, it was it was worth the watch. It was definitely worth the watch. So
Yeah, I mean, like, I waver in between, watching like art films on the Criterion to the Great British Bake Off on Netflix, or drag shows called like Dragula, which I highly suggest because talk about a unique drag show. That is a great show.
okay,
Because it's like a horror drag show.
interesting.
Anyway, but yeah, I don't know. It's like whatever people want. It's at your fingertips right now, like with content. But yes, everything is the same
Yes.
and it's recycled.
All right. Now for the final segment, the interview. Leah, going to ask you some questions so that the listeners can learn more about you, your background, and all the fun things that go along with that. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off with the first question. The Northeast and New York have such distinct styles and movements that become inseparable from their artists. What about the city are you always trying to convey in your work when New York is involved?
Okay, like I want to know what style you think because I've never really thought about that.
You put me on the spot with that one because there's a lot of styles in New York, and um,
Please tell me because I would like to know.
honestly, I'm gonna throw my hands in the air on this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, how am I supposed to answer that? Because I don't know. I can't tell you. The only thing I know is that perhaps we're more liberal than
Right.
most of America, and because of that, we make different films, I guess. I don't know, but it depends on the film. I just did a really interesting interview. I'm sorry, I keep plugging from them, but for the Criterion Channel
No, you're good.
about these amazing animators, John and Faith Hubley, and I interviewed their children because they passed, and they're some of the most prominent independent animators of our time. And they started out in independent. They were one of the first people to start independent animation, like an independent animation house on the East Coast. And what differentiated them from the West Coast was a more independent visual flair and breaking out of the Hollywood system and to study more of a fine art kind of look. So there's that. And because of that, there's been so much more independent film. And I'd like to thank them as almost like a weird like godfather, godmother to like independent animation. But today, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question because I don't know what that is. Because I do know that there are more independent filmmakers on the East Coast comparatively to the West Coast. There's more of a scene here, but visually speaking, I don't know.
Understood. Understood. So my next question, animation is for average people synonymous with cartoons. What are some of your animation inspirations that aren't what people normally associate with animation?
Sure, that's a great question. Well, one of my favorite mixed media filmmakers, I'd probably classify him as that, but he'd probably be most known as an animator. He makes live action films too. Is Jan Svankmajer, and he is a Czech animator, and he's in his 80s, I think, at this time. Bless his soul, and he is one of the most amazing artists alive, in my opinion, filmmakers who really pushes the envelope both visually and subject wise. And I highly suggest that everyone watches his films because your mind will be blown. And he has surely been a huge influence in my earlier films, like 100%. I'd like to watch his films now and again now, just as like a kind of like refresh moment. After watching Dragula or something, I gotta watch one of his films. But like I listen to a ton of music. I myself like to make music. I've always been a huge, huge Patti Smith fan. I love her writing and how punk she is. One of my favorite photographers is Robert Mapplethorpe. I love his art. It's both beautiful and very sexual, which I mean I myself am, so I relate to that. Um, Let me see. I'm a huge like foodie, so I don't know. I guess that's kind of influenced my work. Like Ina Garten is a goddess. I don't know. I'm just like rambling. I'm
No,
trying
you're
not to
good.
name filmmakers that influence my art. Oh, I'm a huge Eric Fischl fan. He is a painter and he's alive. He makes these beautiful paintings that certainly stir up controversy. That is definitely an influence in my art. Yeah,
When you
those are
talk
some
about
big.
your influences, it reminds me of the short video interview I watched where you ran off a list of all the things that influences your work. So
Oh yeah. Well, like I wrote that on the subway to the interview, and that was for the Criterion. Uh,
that was awesome.
yeah, thank you. It was really funny. That was
Yeah, it was.
I was definitely put on the spot. I was like, oh no, I gotta make a list, and I think I said really funny thing. I think funny things like makeup, my mom, the movie Legend, which is true. It's so good. It's one of Ridley Scott's least talked about films, I think, and it's so effing good, and the production design is amazing. And the soundtrack is great too because it's done by Tangerine Dream. I don't know. What else did I say in that? I don't know. I also said Patti Smith in that. Yeah.
You did. You did. Uh, so my next question to you, you are a working mixed media artist, and those skills have also formed careers in fine art and music. How do you carry your voice and style across your various artistic pursuits?
I mean, I don't think it really matters what medium I'm using. It's just about the idea in the end. So to me, that's why I went into film, because it could combine every medium possible into this art, audio, visuals, editing, lighting, sculpture, even because of animation. So, I like to go from one medium to the other, depending on what I'm doing, just because I can. And right
Right.
now, I'm really into photography. I really like to take really crazy photos. It's a nice moment away from making films, even though it's almost like it's a still frame uh, of a live action film. I'm
Hmm.
telling story in one frame. Yeah.
Right. I can totally see where you're getting at on that too. So I'm not a photographer, but I just think about how when I'm out, like especially on the lake, like I like to get a picture. It's the same picture, but each picture tells a different story.
Yeah.
So, so my last question to you: not many filmmakers find success in both animation and live action. What benefits does a background in animation bring to live directing? And can a live action director go animated without past experience?
It's a great question. I think it really benefits me knowing animation, having done it, and going into doing live action for so many reasons, like timing. I can always see a frame rate that's, it's like it's easier for me to see something within timing or like editing because of that. I am lucky enough to be able to storyboard uh, my films and easily communicate what I want because of this, because of animation. And I can speak to, people I hire to help make storyboards if I'm not storyboarding, and, say the right lingo. If I'm incorporating animation in a live action film, which I have done in my previous film, I can direct them again, the correct way, because of my animation background. I think it helps a lot. Also because I've also helmed rather large crews with animation productions, and it's been pretty crazy. Which is it's very an animation crew is very different than a live action crew, and you have to be very particular and succinct with your decisions. And it takes longer to make than a live action film. And so your other question was, can a live action director do an animated film, or like what was it again?
Yeah, yeah. Can a live action director go animated without
I think
past experience?
I think I have a hunch that a lot of people think they can, and they're like, "Oh, I can do this because I'm a director." But personally, I think people should hire directors that have a background in animation or that have done it before. It is certainly different, and if they know animation and have done it, then it will go smoother and it'll be easier, especially if they can draw even better. Because I'm not sure, are they really directing? I don't know. Yeah, that's just my opinion. Because then it's just like, is the animation supervisor really directing the film in the end? I don't know. I haven't been involved in a film like that yet, though I would like to. It would be an excellent opportunity.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know, it's mind-boggling when you see a live action filmmaker making an animated thing. You're like, well, why didn't you just hire somebody who has experience in either both? Or but hey, I mean, if they want to do it, then do it. Read a book about it, or speak to someone about it before you make it, just for some
Right.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can agree with that, and I appreciate that insight too, because I never really thought of it like that. Honestly, it's something I gave thought to at one point. I remember as far as the difference between live action and animated, but you really gave me something to think about. So yeah, I appreciate that insight because I never really thought of it like that. As far as going from one to the other, also like the experience that would be needed to be able to go from live action, or not experience or knowledge needed to go from live action and be have some kind of success or be able to execute doing animated productions.
Yeah.
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 So, well, hey, I appreciate you again taking time out of your schedule to come on the same show. Really enjoyed the conversation with you, and again, learned a lot. And that's one of the best things about doing this, getting to talk to all the awesome people that come on the show and learn about the different things that everybody does and get all this cool insight. So,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on and sharing that with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Always, always. Definitely have to have you back on in the future. And listeners, thank you guys for listening, continuing to like, share, and subscribe to Sane Show. Again, you guys are listening to the Sane Show, the show about nothing and everything. And until next time, we're out.